Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am really excited to be talking all about pollinators today. It is one of my favorite topics because I love talking all about the pretty flowers and how to attract the pollinators. It's fun. I see there's already people that have joined us in the chat. Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm so happy to see everybody back here this week. It's fun having the same people. I see lots of familiar faces. Well, not faces, but I guess I do see like little faces in there in the chat. So I am in Zone 7, Oklahoma City, and I would love to see where all of you guys are at. And for those of you who might be new to joining us today, welcome. We have a lot of fun on these days, and it's very informal. We like to do a lot of chatting. And if you guys have any questions throughout, please leave them in the comment section. And I have helpers that'll be pulling up questions as we go along, and then we'll be answering questions at the end as well. So hopefully I will have time to get to everybody's questions. I know we've had a lot of questions the past several weeks. And even last week when we just did a live Q&A session, I feel like we didn't get to most all of them. So I love it. I love that you guys have so many questions. Keep them coming. I love it. And I love talking to all of you guys. Um, so, oh, ready to plant some mint. Oh, I love it. Oh, we actually just talked about, we actually just got mint planted a little bit ago. It was really fun. Um, I'm so glad that you are using the app. For those of you who don't know, thank you for pulling it up. um, my husband and I are the creators of the From Seed to Spoon mobile app. So this is our app right here. If you guys don't already have it, make sure you download it now because it'll be so helpful for you. I use it honestly every single day whenever I am, especially this time of year. I'm using it all the time, going through and checking my planting dates and seeing what I can grow right now. Yep, right there on the plant now, you can see everything that you can plant now for your location. It'll pull frost dates from your closest weather station and then calculate out your exact dates. So it is super helpful. I love doing that and not having to do math myself. So it's pretty great. Yeah, and you'll see lots of things on this main dashboard. The Grow for Health section I particularly love. Um, you can go through and see all the different plants and things that you can be growing to help with different health conditions. Because one of the main reasons we started growing was for mental health, like we had selected right there. And then once you go in to each plant details, it'll show you all the information you need for growing food. So everything from your exact planting dates to how deep to plant your seeds to how big they're going to get, how long it's going to take you to harvest, and then like companion planting, pest management, all of that, and more. I mean, I could honestly talk on and on probably this entire hour about things that we have added into the app and things that we're doing in there. Um, so yeah, definitely check it out if you don't already have it. And if you guys have questions about it, please feel free to ask away and I can show you if there's anything that you guys have any questions about. Oh, and yes, Growbot is amazing too. So Growbot will help you answer any questions that you have too, any gardening questions. So we have it trained with all of our information from our From Seed to Spoon app as well as from Park Seed. So it'll pull information from there and give you some really great answers to all your gardening questions. And plus, you guys might see it looks a little bit different on here than you have in your app because we're testing out a new version. So they are working right now on making this feature. Hopefully it'll be very, very soon coming out, maybe even like this next week or so. I'm excited. We've been testing it nonstop. Where you see where it says add photo, you can add a picture. So you can post a picture of one of your plants in the garden, or if you see a bug or something like that, and it will help you figure out either like what's wrong with your plant or what it is or what pest this is and how to handle it. It's super exciting. It's already helped me out a lot. I love it. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are using Growbot. Awesome. Yay. Thanks, Todd. That's great. Okay. So today we are going to be talking all about planting for pollinators. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, please put them over here in the chat and we will try to answer them as we go along. And if not, at the very end. So yes, we are going to be doing a giveaway, as we always do, for a free 1-year premium from Seed to Spoon app subscription. With this, so most everything that I showed is already free, but you can, with the premium subscription, you can log unlimited plants in your garden, and that'll help you know when to plant out your it'll help you know when your seeds are going to sprout, when you can harvest plants, things like that, and help you keep track of everything in your garden. I know I tend to forget when I plant things, even though I'm like, I won't forget. I always do. So having that section right there really helps. And also you'll get unlimited Growbot questions too, and unlimited photos to send to Growbot to find out what's going on. So I love it. And also free shipping too for all orders within the app from Park Seed. So it's amazing right there. Oh, and we're giving away some of the wildflower. So the free shipping is going to be with the 1-year premium from Seed to Spoon app subscription. So if you want to do that, make sure you guys get the 1 year. So we're also going to be doing a giveaway for some native perennial wildflower mix seeds too. These are amazing. I absolutely love this mix because it has a really good, it's really good native plants, and they're perennials as well, which means that they will come back year after year. So that seed mixture is going to be a great one to add to your garden. So jumping right on into it, why do you want those native plants that hopefully you're going to win today, right? Native plants are just really important to help with a lot of different things. They're, again, going to help with our pollinators. They're going to help bring in all your local pollinators, help support them, give them food, give them places to hide and shelter. And it'll also just be better for your environment as well. You won't have to do very much because they're already used to the environment. They've been thriving there forever, and they will be drought resistant as well, which is huge for me. So you can pretty much plant them and forget about them. You don't have to go in and water them a whole bunch, which is very helpful. So native plants are an amazing addition to any garden, and it'll help with all your pollinators and bringing them in. So it's something that you definitely want to be doing in your garden. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So I included 10 of some of my favorites to help bring in the pollinators and support the pollinators and all of that. So the first one that I wanted to talk about is milkweed. So milkweed is one of those that's super important for the monarch butterflies. It is something that they will love because they come in, they lay their eggs there, and then the caterpillars hatch on them, and they're really good food for them. And they're really great to attract monarch butterflies and bees, as well as they just look so pretty, right? So this is something that you want to be planting in your garden to attract those. And also make sure that you have full sun there and have as much sun as possible for these, because that's how they're going to thrive. They have thrived here. These are one of the native mix too. So these ones are really good ones to be planting in your garden. And next, so this is a great question real quick from Carol. Thanks. So love to learn about plants that draw pollinators. Are they the same for all zones? I'm in zone 8B. So yes, all of these are going to be terrific options for all zones if they're applicable for your zone. Most of these that I'm talking about are going to be applicable to most all zones. Now, there might be some exceptions if you are like way, way up north. But most of the time, pretty much all of these are going to be good for no matter where you guys are all at. And I would too. I mean, you can just go into and ask Growbot as well. Can I grow lavender in my area, or can I grow milkweed in my area? But pretty much all of these that we're going to be chatting about today are good for all of your zones. So I did want to talk about lavender next. Now, lavender is one that is amazing to add to your garden. It's super fragrant. If you guys just walk around and past it in the garden and run past it, you can just smell lavender. It is so amazing. I love it. It is again super easy to grow. The only thing that you want to make sure to do is not do too much water for your lavender plants. So you want to make sure to give it a lot of water once and then kind of let it dry out and then just continue with that path. But lavender again is going to be good in the full sun. It'll help to attract in again the bees and butterflies. You will see them all over the place once the lavender starts to flower. It is gorgeous. You will see so many pollinators all over them. Okay, sunflowers again. So sunflowers are so easy to grow. We have so many wild sunflowers in our garden that just pop up themselves now because we planted just a few of them at one point and they just come back every single year. It's amazing. And sunflowers, again, super easy because honestly, I feel like you plant them once, they'll just continue to grow and come back every year. They are, again, there's a bunch of different heights on sunflowers. You can grow some that are one of the smaller varieties. And then there's also some that are just mammoth ones, like that are huge, towering over us. And all of them are going to be great at bringing in all sorts of pollinators. You'll see everything on them, honestly. So things like bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, everything's going to be all over the sunflowers. And again, sunflowers with, obviously, I feel like the name says it, but it does need full sun. And one thing too about sunflowers, they're not only super easy to grow too, but the seeds are really good food for wildlife, help support your local wildlife and birds and things like that. Oh, this is a great question. How closely planted should pollinator flowers be planted to help my vegetable garden? If vegetables are in the backyard, is it too far to have these flowers in my front yard? So that's a great question. So there's not really a like it must be within this amount and this feet. As long as it's in the vicinity, you're going to be bringing in the pollinators to your vegetable garden as well. So I would say even if you have it in like the front yard, you would be just fine. They will find your vegetables as well. But the closer you can plant them, the better because it will help them not get distracted along the way and make sure that they find that your vegetables. Okay, the easiest sunflower for containers. Um, Honestly, any and all varieties will do great in containers. We even one time accidentally grew a huge mammoth size sunflower in a like it was a super tiny smart pot. So one of those fabric raised beds, fabric containers. It was about like a 1 to 3 gallon one. It was a really small one. And we accidentally grew a huge mammoth sunflower in there because it planted itself. We're like, we'll just let it go. And it did amazing. So honestly, all of them are going to do great. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that huge of a sunflower in there, but it is possible. So this variety right here, though, is probably going to be one of your best bets for something that is smaller size. And this one is one of the dwarf varieties of sunflowers. So let's see, how tall do they get? Trying to read that tiny 2 to 3 feet tall. Yeah, that's great. And oh, they're in part of the mix and match 10 for 25, which is amazing. So Park Seed um, has this sale going on that you can mix and match a bunch of different variety of seeds and you get 10 of them that are within that sale. You get it for $25. Awesome deal. So make sure you guys check that out. And these sunflowers are part of them. Okay. Ooh, bee balm. So we've grown bee balm for years. It's one of my favorites. It is so beautiful and such a unique looking flower. I love it. And I feel like, again, super simple, super easy to grow. We actually had this in an area at our old house in a raised bed with some mint in the shade, and it thrived in the shade as well and gave us these huge, beautiful flowers. So bee balm is just super resilient. It's super easy. So it can tolerate anything from, it can tolerate a little bit of shade. It can tolerate sun. It's great. And this one will be really great to grow in a container too, because it does spread. It's very similar to mint, I feel like, in that way, but not as bad. But it is gorgeous. I don't mind it. I put it in the container and it is beautiful. And like the name suggests, there are so many bees all over these plants. It's incredible. But not only just the bees, it'll attract things like butterflies and hummingbirds and all of those. Like, yeah, you'll see so many different pollinators on there. It'll be amazing. So this is definitely something that I would highly recommend planting, especially if you have a shaded area that you want to bring some color into, because these ones will tolerate some of the shade, which is rare for a lot of the flowering plants. And then zinnias. I feel like no list ever is complete without talking about zinnias, honestly, because zinnias are just one of those flowers that are so versatile. They're beautiful and they attract so many butterflies. And again, super easy to grow. Um, we go through and plant, like, if there's a specific variety we want, we'll get that and plant them out. But we will let them just go to seed at the end of the season, and they'll drop their seeds into the ground, and then in the springtime they will come up again. And I love that. So now we just have a wildflower patch of zinnias. So it's amazing. And zinnias are great at attracting all sorts of different pollinators as well into your garden, and they will thrive in the full sun. They do need full sun, all sorts of different shapes and sizes and all of that with zinnias. And again, super easy to grow. So this is definitely one that you guys should check out. And I invite you guys, make sure you guys ask any questions that you have throughout throughout all this. If you have any questions, they'll pop them up as they come in. But if we don't get to them in the meantime, they'll pop them up at the end as well if I go too fast. Okay, we have a great question from Teresa. Are these flowers okay to plant near roses? So if you're talking about zinnias, yes, for sure. Honestly, everything I've talked about so far today has been good to plant near roses. There's a lot of, these are all great companion plants that I'm talking about too. There's not really, unless it's something that needs its own container because it's different watering requirements, that's really the only thing that you need to worry about with some of these flowers. But otherwise, they're going to be great. Okay, so Teresa has hanging planters on the porch rails. Do any of these work for shallow planters? Absolutely. Let's see, which ones have we been talking about so far? I already have lost track. I know there are dwarf versions of zinnias, so I know that those would definitely be good for a shallow planter. The biggest thing that you need to worry about is not having a huge, so again, mammoth sunflower, I wouldn't do it in that. But you'll just need to make sure you water it a little bit more frequently, and just make sure it does have holes in the bottom so that way water doesn't just sit at the bottom too. But otherwise, I mean, pretty much most everything that we're talking about would be fine in these areas. Okay, foxglove. So this is another one too that can tolerate some shade too. So if you guys are looking for an area in a garden that is a little bit shaded or maybe next to the house, these ones are really tall as well. So they make a really good backdrop to a garden, and they will help to bring in so many different bees. Bees love foxgloves. They're so pretty. I mean, as you can see right here, there's so many different colors and varieties of them as well. And it's just something that will really bring in all sorts of pollinators. And it's really great to add some height and just some interest into your garden as well. So this will be a really good one to add to any sort of flower or vegetable garden as well. Okay. Oh, uh-oh. Somebody else was helping me out and turning. So sage, I love sage too. So I'm, of course, not only talking about flowers here today. I have some also herbs, and so sage is really good at bringing in again a bunch of different pollinators. Especially like there's so many different varieties again of sage. My personal favorite is the pineapple sage. So nice. It'll bring in so many butterflies. It's incredible. So butterflies, hummingbirds, bees, all of those will be all over sage. And sage will do really good in the sun. And they're super pretty. So they're really great for flower gardens and looking nice, but they're also used in the kitchen as well. So it is a very versatile way to bring in a bunch of pollinators to your garden. And then cone flowers. So these ones are great too. And again, there's a lot of different colors and varieties. Like these ones are commonly found in wildflower mixes because this is something that is a native plant to a lot of places, and you'll see it in a bunch of different wildflower mixes. It's super easy to grow. Again, yeah, drought tolerant. They're really good, and it you can actually put this in like teas and things like that. And it will again tolerate a little bit of shade. So if you want to put it in an area that gets like some afternoon shade, it'll still do good there. But full sun to park shade for these ones, and you will see them coming up, and they're going to be amazing. Okay, marigolds. So marigolds, again, I know I talk about marigolds a lot, especially whenever I'm talking about any sort of companion plants or vegetable gardening and all of that. But marigolds are one that are an amazing companion plant to so many of your veggies. So things like tomatoes, I always plant marigolds next to tomatoes and peppers, all of those. But marigolds are amazing at not only repelling pests sometimes too, but they will bring in pollinators too. So these ones will help so much. I always recommend everybody plant out marigolds everywhere within their vegetable gardens. It'll bring in bees and butterflies and yeah, I mean, you name it, it'll bring it in. And they do amazing in full sun, so they can thrive right there, right next to your tomatoes or right next to your peppers, and they'll do great. And basil. So we can't talk about pollinators without basil because basil, especially whenever it flowers, you can, yeah, the amount of bees and pollinators that you will see on your basil is incredible. It's like they just love whenever it flowers. So typically, what we do is now you are supposed to be pinching off the flowers whenever they are first doing that because you want to try to encourage them to be growing more. But whenever it comes to the later season, I typically let them just flower away, bring in all the pollinators, and then I also just, I mean, I'll let like one or two go and keep giving flowers, and so I can bring in a bunch of different pollinators. Okay, are pollinators okay for raised garden beds and pots too? Yeah, absolutely. So I plant out a lot of these plants to bring in pollinators into my raised beds and all of that. So basil especially is going to be amazing to plant right next to your tomatoes, and it will help to not only bring in the pollinators, but it'll help repel pests, and it'll also help to make your tomatoes taste better too. So, and then also, who doesn't love a good basil pesto too? So basil has a lot of great additions to your garden. Okay. So I know I whizzed through that. I wanted to make sure that I left plenty of time for questions because the last several weeks I've been going right to the end. So I wanted to make sure I had plenty of time for all of your questions. So if you guys, again, pop all your questions over here into the chat, and we're going to be going through and answering any of your questions that you have. And then also, we're going to be announcing the winner of our giveaway at the top of the hour as well. So make sure that you guys stick around and ask questions. Okay, that's a very pretty basil. What type? Okay, so let me go back to that basil picture. So whenever you have the purple flowering, it's typically going to be the Thai or cinnamon basil, and those ones are my favorites. I love them also. They're not only beautiful because they have the pretty purple flowers. I know everybody knows I love all the pretty purple unique things, but it's also really tasty. So it has this really like almost sweet taste to it. I love adding them to things like sweet potatoes or carrots. They're so good, and it adds like almost a sweet taste to it. I love it. Is there something different about growing from pelleted seed? So we have all sorts of different pelleted seeds. So a lot of our like petunias and things like that. Um, are pelleted seeds, and I just plant them directly into the soil, just like a standard one. And yeah, it works out great. Okay. Is there a secret to getting the seeds started? None of mine came up. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm not sure which ones you're talking about, but um, I would say the biggest secret. Yep, that's what I was gonna say. So I was gonna pull up this biodome right here. So any of my seeds that I struggle with getting started, I always plant them into the biodome because this will have the perfect environment for the seeds to thrive. So any of the ones that we've never had success with before, I actually had fun and experimented with them this year, planting them in the biodome, and they all came up. It was amazing. But it is the perfect environment for them. You just pop them into the little bio sponge there, and put some water into the bottom of the tray, and the sponges soak up the water from the bottom. And you have that lid on top, which helps to maintain the moisture inside while the seeds are germinating. It works really well for, especially for those plants and seeds that you struggle with germinating. So I highly recommend giving those a try. Oh, and we have them in our app too, and you can get 15, or was it 15% off with code SPOON15. So make sure you check that out. And also, if you have our 1 year premium app subscription, you get free shipping too. Okay. Any tips for making sure the wasps stay on your plants and don't come after you, especially while harvesting? Okay. So I understand this. So wasps sometimes do scare me, but I just know that they are doing they're doing good. Um, I mean, they're always going to be helping with the especially like tomato hornworms and things like that. I love wasps. Um, but I would say if you have any plants that you have things like butterfly bushes, milkweed, zinnias, those ones will more attract the more butterflies instead of things like the wasps and things like that. So if you wanted to attract more of those pollinators instead of the wasps, you can try sticking to some of those. Okay, do you plant pollinators under fruit trees? I read it can be beneficial. I have aphids in an apple tree and was thinking if planting marigolds around it could be helpful. Um, Absolutely. So, any way that you could go about attracting any sort of ladybugs to your garden would be really beneficial for you. And definitely with marigolds, that's going to help bring in some ladybugs as well. Um, but that's going to be your biggest thing is you want to try and bring in all of the ladybugs that you can. So again, things like like you said there, marigolds would definitely be helpful. Things like dill would also be helpful, fennel. But with fennel, make sure you keep it a little bit separate from other things or in its own container too, because the roots do not do good with touching the soil for other things. So, but it will help to attract and bring in all sorts of different pollinators, especially ladybugs to help you out too. Can zinnias grow near blackberries? Yeah, absolutely. Zinnias are going to make really good companions for pretty much everything, unless it's something that you're worried about, like getting shaded out by zinnias. Because sometimes, like there are some zinnia varieties that can get pretty tall. So you just want to make sure that it's not a one that will be shading it out. But zinnias and blackberries, yes, I think that would be a great combination right there. Okay, I was told to refrigerate seeds of lavender before planting. So, yes, so this will definitely help whenever you are going through and getting started with your lavender seeds. It's not necessarily required, but it definitely does help. We didn't do it for our seeds, but again, we got all of our seeds from Park Seed. And at Park Seed, at their facility in South Carolina, they keep everything in like a refrigerated, controlled environment until they ship it to you. So they've honestly kind of already gone through that by the time we get it. So we just got ours directly from Park Seed and planted them out in our biodome, and they did amazing. Okay, what does it mean partial sun or partial shade? Does that mean amount of time? So, yeah, typically partial shade is going to be more like a 4 to 6 hours of sun. Um, but some of them, again, it's going to be a little bit different depending on other things like the heat. So some things that even like full sun can take a little bit of afternoon break from it if the temperatures are really high. Um, but typically, whenever it says part sun or part shade, it's meaning about 4 to 6 hours. Can we save the seeds from the dwarf sunflowers to replant? I mean, honestly, I would imagine so. All of the sunflowers, as long as they're not a hybrid variety, you will be getting the same variety of sunflowers that you got out. So if you just pull the sunflowers out, you will keep them stored in a dry, cool area, and then plant them out in the spring, and they will do great for you. Now you can do the same with hybrid seeds too, but you won't necessarily know exactly what type of sunflower you're going to be getting. But you can still definitely do that too. Would you grow lavender from seed or transplant? So you can do either way. We are actually growing our lavender from seed this year, which is our first time doing that. And we had never been successful really growing lavender from seed before until this year, but we started them in our biodome and we got our seeds from Park Seed and they worked amazing. Um, we've always done transplants before just because they're so much easier and they're going to already be large because the ones that we started from seed are definitely going to take a while to get to be full plant size, which is fine for us because we started them early. But it's all up to you at what time frame you're going to be wanting to put them out in the garden and all of that. But yeah, you can do either one. Okay, any tricks on getting lavender to grow? Never had luck getting them to grow. My goodness, yeah, lavender is difficult. I think everybody can agree on that today because we're getting a lot of lavender questions. So, the biggest thing I will say, if you're starting seeds, again, I would make sure that you start them in the biodome because that's what we did this year and they worked amazing that way. Um, and then also, once you put them out in the garden, the biggest thing that I can say is don't overwater them. They don't like to have what's called their feet wet. So they don't want to be just sitting in a bunch of water. So give them water, let them dry completely out before you water them again. They do amazing in a raised bed or container of some sort, and that has really good drainage in their soil. So that way, the water isn't just sitting in there and their roots aren't just sitting in water. So those are typically the main things that I see issues for whenever people are growing lavender. Okay, what are some good pollinator flowers for a raised flower bed that only gets morning sun? So, a few of our plants that we talked about today can actually be planted in there. So things like the foxglove that we talked about too, and then the bee balm will do really well too in part shade. Um, and then there's a few others like hellebore, and then you know what? I don't know how to exactly say this. Astilbe. I don't know if I'm saying that right because this is my first year growing it. I actually just got the bare root plants from Park Seed this year and planted them out, so I'm really excited to grow it. Um, can you pull up a picture of it because it is so pretty? I love it. They are very pretty. They're really good, like putting around in a right, like in front of a raised flower bed. It's so pretty. Um, Things like that'll be good. Yes. Oh, it's sold out. Bummer. Yeah, this is the one. That's the one that I had.
You bought the last one.
I got the last one. I'm sorry, everybody. It was my bad. I'll show you pictures along the way, and you can live vicariously through me. Also, things like hydrangeas, hostas, things like that. You can also plant, and that will really help, and they'll thrive in that type of location. Oh, where do you find Growbot in the app? So, pull up the app. So on the bottom, hopefully you can kind of see it. It might be blocked a little bit, but on the bottom right corner, you can see the little Growbot icon right there.
Where they can see.
If we take off that bottom, there, you can kind of see it there on the bottom. It says Growbot. Yeah, right there. Yay, Growbot. There's Growbot right there. So you'll go in and you can type in any gardening question right there that you have. Okay, do we have any other questions? Ooh, do bees pollinate vegetables? Do they need pollination or is that just for flowers? So yes, absolutely. Bees are amazing to have in your garden. They'll help pollinate things like your tomatoes, your squash, all of that, and and cucumbers, peppers. I mean, I could go on and on. So those type of plants right there will need pollination, and bees are a really key important part of that. Same as butterflies, they will help with this as well. But they will help with those type of plants right there to pollinate, because if you don't have them, they're not going to be fruiting for you, so you won't get any tomatoes or peppers, things like that. So yes, you definitely want to be attracting your bees into the garden. Do you plant the marigolds in your raised bed with the veggies? Yes, I do. I plant marigolds everywhere. Honestly, we have I almost feel like we make a fortress of marigolds sometimes around especially our tomatoes. I there's two tomatoes that we have out here planted along a trellis that we have, and it's in one of our smart pots, long raised beds that's like up against this trellis, and we have just a fortress of marigolds in front, and then we have a couple tomatoes planted along the back to go up the trellis. It's not only going to be really pretty, but it's going to help a lot with repelling any sort of pests and things like that. So yes, I always plant marigolds right there, right in the same bed. I see full sun, but can marigolds tolerate shade? No, they will not flower for you if you put them in the shade. I mean, you might get them to grow a little bit, but they're definitely going to struggle. So I would definitely recommend full sun for them. Okay, best organic fertilizers. So we love our Espoma fertilizer. There's pretty much an Espoma for everything. And I mean, the great thing about them is it is all organic. And like I said, they have a spoma for everything. They have a tomato tone fertilizer that's great for your tomatoes and peppers. They have a flower booster. They have a bulb one. They have, I could go on and on. They literally have like, I think we have at least like 10 to 15 different espoma fertilizers in the app. It's amazing. But yes, this is pretty much all that we do is espoma fertilizer along with a good compost. Okay, so Wendy says, are there flowers that should not grow with other flowers, like the way some veggies can't be planted together? So, yes, I will say I did mention fennel earlier. Fennel is amazing at bringing in pollinators. It's great at that, but it will not do good with your other plants. So you want to make sure to keep it in its own container away from your other plants. Um, so fennel is definitely something like that. I would argue mint as well. So even though mint, it technically, it won't do anything to harm them, but it could crowd them out because mint will take over your bed and it will just grow and spread. So again, mint in its own container can go pretty much anywhere. And then anything else, so things like maybe morning glories, that will bring in pollinators as well, but you do have to be careful too with that as well because it will reseed itself and grow everywhere. I love morning glories, but yes, it can definitely spread and be invasive. Okay. Oh, so Laura asked a very similar question. So, what flowers should or shouldn't be planted directly in the bed with veggies? And which flowers are okay or better planted in a container? So, yes, so very similar to what I just talked about. So, things like the mints and fennel, anything that is going to be spreading by itself, even bee balm, I would recommend putting in a container too. Um, but if you have things like marigold, I would put them directly in the bed with the veggies. Even things like dill will reseed itself, zinnias will reseed itself. So if you don't want them coming back in that same place the next year, you might just want to be careful to either not let them go to seed or plant them by themselves. Is bee balm annual or perennial? So bee balm is actually a perennial. It will come back every year and give you beautiful flowers without you having to do anything. I am a huge fan of it. It is gorgeous and super easy to grow. And yes, it will come back year after year. I think we already have this had this question, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep. You're all good. I was gonna say, unless it's a duplicate, maybe somebody else had the same question. Okay. That is something I do not see in the app. How much depth each plant needs when planting. So there is a section for seed depth of how deep to plant the seeds whenever you plant them out. But no, we do not have like a transplant or bare root or anything like that. So thank you. We will add that in. Appreciate it. Okay, are there flowers that can help keep pests off veggies like squash or cucumbers? Okay, so if you're talking squash bugs here, it's going to be tricky, but things that can help are going to be things like your marigolds. Again, I will always say marigolds, dill, and because dill will help to bring in the wasps, that will help too. Um, and then also things like mint are known to help, tansy, nasturtium, calendula, things like that are all supposed to be really good to help repel off things like the squash bugs or and also to bring in not only the pollinators but the beneficials that are going to help you combat those pests. So those ones would be really good. Sorry. Okay, I have some small deck rail, maybe 1 gallon. What would be some good flowers to put in there? Awesome. So you could actually plant quite a bit in this space. I would recommend something maybe like a petunia or, like we talked about earlier, like those dwarf sunflowers or zinnias even. Um, but personally, like if you wanted to like trail over, I would probably go with like a petunia. That would be really pretty. Okay, my zucchini is mottled with white splotches. Is there a plant to protect from diseases? So this is probably powdery mildew, and it's not really prevented by a plant, but more watering. So whenever you're watering, you just want to make sure that you're watering just the ground, or if you are doing overhead watering, that you are watering more in the morning, so you're giving it time to dry out during the day before nighttime temperatures. But it's a really easy fix. All you need to do is just make a milk and water mix, shake it up into like a little spray bottle, and just spray it down, and you'll be fine. Like it's a super easy fix. Are there any vining pollinator plants that can survive in the shade? So this is a great question, and one actually we do know because we have been looking up and researching this as well. Because we have some areas in the shade that we wanted to add some color and have something really pretty in. So things like clematis are going to be really good there, and then also things like honeysuckle can also thrive with a little bit of shade too. So ours we have in like a part shade, part sun, but it'll do well there. Okay, Rebecca says, are there some vegetables that are not well suited to raised bed containers? So they'll be relatively shallow. The biggest things that I would say for this are going to be like big things like okra or corn that are going to be having the deep roots, and also like the mammoth sunflowers. So anything that's like really large like that or that has really deep roots are not going to do great in those raised bed containers. They're going to tend to fall over because they're going to get top heavy for you. So they need to have a lot of support and roots down below to help support them. So, so those are going to be ones that you want to try to avoid putting into a raised bed container. Are any of these you've mentioned invasive that you'd want to keep away from the garden box? So, none of the ones that I talked about today I would necessarily call invasive. Now, a lot of them will be like reseeding themselves. So, coming back year after year. Bee balm does tend to spread, but it's not unmanageable. Um, by any means. So I would say all of these that I talked about today are definitely ones that you can manage in the garden beds. Are radishes good to plant in raised beds with other veggies like tomatoes? Yes, for sure. Um, Radishes are an amazing companion. So they are known too. So radishes are another one that can help with squash bugs too. But they're also really good for tomatoes as well. So they're really good for repelling a lot of different pests. So I definitely recommend it. Okay. Is there anything in the app that helps you find what plants are native to your area? So that's actually a really great question. So I would recommend chatting with Growbot about it because we don't have any section in the app right now for that. I think that that's definitely a great call, though. I like that. But yeah, as for now, Growbot can help you out with that. Okay, so it sounds like we are going to be announcing the winner right now, and then we'll come back and answer a few more questions after that. But I want to make sure we have plenty of time to announce the winner that we have today. So this winner, It is Teresa. Congratulations, Teresa. You have just won a free 1 year premium from Seed to Spoon app subscription and the Park Seed Wildflower Perennial Native Mix. So make sure to send us an email at seedtospoon.net and we will get you all set up for your premium access and send your seeds your way. Congratulations. So if you guys didn't win, make sure you come back next week too, because we do giveaways every week. We do these workshops and we have a lot of fun with them as well. And yeah, I enjoy it. So we'll go back and answer a few more questions before we're done here. Okay, so Carrie. Hi, Carrie. I like your name. My tomato leaves are turning yellow. What can I add to help them green up? So it's probably a lack of nitrogen or too much water as well. So we tend to do things like fish fertilizer in that situation to help them in there. We already had this question too. I'm going to fire the helpers. My goodness. Okay. Dee says, what's the best way to plant seed mixtures for pollinators in the ground? So honestly, what I do whenever I have like a seed mix, so like that wildflower seed mix, we just go through and sprinkle them out around. And then you can just take like, just like a little shovel or, and just like rake them in a little bit. But honestly, if you just spread them around and water them in, it's probably going to be good. Tips for preventing squash bugs. So squash bugs are everybody's nemesis. And they are something that you're always going to be battling, unfortunately. So some things that we do to try and prevent them is, again, going to be companion planting. I know we just talked a little bit about certain companions earlier, but I would say definitely companion plant to try and prevent it. And we try to grow a lot of our squashes and things like that vertically if possible. Even things like zucchinis, we try to we put like a T-post next to it and kind of train it to go up it. So that way you can have a little bit more, it's more visual. You can see what's going on under your leaves better. So you'll see if there's a problem with squash bugs, and also like other beneficials will see if there's problems with squash bugs. So they won't have as many places to hide. So growing vertically, if possible, will help. And then honestly, just going in and checking on them every day and just making sure, like, just look underneath the leaves. If you see any bugs, or if you see any eggs, you can just take a piece of tape and get them off, or a lint roller, and rub them off that way. Is it okay that I plant my garden close to my pool? Sure. I would say that that's fine. I would just be careful if you're using like chlorinated water, not to be splashing too much in there. But that would be my only concern, would be careful with the chlorinated water. Okay, I tried winter sowing and it was a fail. Aw, I'm sorry. Can most seeds be direct sown, both vegetables and flowers? Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't get your seeds started indoors, or if you need to restart, like, absolutely go for it. As I always say, grow for it. You can go through and plant most everything right now, at least in our area. So we're in zone 7, and I mean, we could be direct seeding even tomatoes outside if we wanted to right now. Because the temperatures are warming up and things like that. So most everything, yes, you can direct sow. Is there a pollinator that will scare off the devious squirrels? Something pretty but off-putting to them. So yes, so we've been battling squirrels ourselves. We have a lot of them running around in our area right now. But we have managed to ward them off with a few things. We have Well, we have a electrified fence around our garden, first of all, which helps. It was super easy to put up. It's just one of those, if you've ever seen it, it's like a premier one, like netting almost, that we have around our garden, and that helps quite a bit, keeping out things like that. Um, but I will also say, if you have, I would recommend getting a motion activated sprinkler. So these things are really fun because you can just set them up where you're having issues. And whenever something goes by, including you, so be careful, it'll start going off and it'll start spraying erratically and it'll scare the squirrels off. So this works again for squirrels, stray cats, dogs. I mean, it'll work for a lot of things, even deer sometimes too. So that's a motion activated sprinkler will help a lot. Will foxgloves flower the first year? So probably not. You're probably going to have to wait if you're starting them by seed for year two. What would happen with chlorinated water entering the soil of the garden? You're just going to affect the pH of the soil, right? And have issues with it being salty. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not going to go great for you. Okay. What weed control is helpful for these flower beds? Well, I will say what we've done. We've done two different methods. So, first of all, we do have an area that we have laid down just cardboard on top of weeds and then put a layer of like mulch or wood chips on top of that. Or you can get like landscape fabric and put that down. And again, I always put down like wood chips or something like that over top, makes it look pretty too. Um, so those are two things that we do to help reduce any sort of weeds or anything like that in our garden beds. Okay, when should you be starting sunflowers direct sowing? So you'll want to wait until after your last frost date. So depending on where you are, I'm not sure when that is, but if you pull up the From Seed to Spoon app, you will see your exact planting dates, and it'll give you exact planting dates for outside as well. So it'll say when you should start them by seed outside. So check those dates. Okay. I think we might have done it this time. We might have answered everybody's question. I'm so sorry if we did not get to your question. I think we did. I hope so. But if we didn't, leave your question again in the comment section after this goes, and then we'll come back to it and look at it after that and answer it. And again, we do these every single week, and it's super fun. So every Tuesday, make sure you join us live, and we're going to be okay, this is funny. My dog's name is Dill. Will he attract pollinators to my garden? I love it. Well, you know what? Dill is going to help then with the squirrel issue that the other one was having probably. So that's funny. I love it. um, yeah. So, anyways, make sure that you guys check us out on all of the social medias. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, yeah, all of it. And we're here every single week doing these live streams and hanging out and chatting and answering questions. So I hope that you guys will all continue to join us and be back next week. See you all later. Bye.